Hey guys, it is Dr. Devin. Welcome to If They Knew, a brand new podcast where I'm inviting you to join me as we talk about health and healing and happiness, life and love. I'm inviting some of my favorite people, some of the brightest lights from around the world to talk about those things, those special things that if they knew, if I knew, if you knew, then we would all open doors to bright new possibilities in life without limits. I'm expecting miracles. You should too. Let's get this party started. Hello, everybody. Oh, I'm so excited to have one of my favorite human spiritual beings on this planet, Dr. Gilles Lamarche. Welcome. Got our round of applause in the background. For those of you that have been at the Big Idea with us, you know this man. He was absolutely one of our first year event favorites. He is, I think, one of the most grounded and peaceful and hope filled leaders in our chiropractic profession. And I have learned so much from him and would love for you to just kind of tell people who haven't met you yet who you are, where you're at in the world, and what you're up to in the here and now.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Dr. Devin. I'm honored to have an opportunity to spend this time with you and with your audience. I am currently sitting in my office at Life University in the beautiful Marietta, Georgia, where I am the Vice President of University Advancement. I came here in 2013. As you know, I did practice as a very busy chiropractic practitioner in Ontario, Canada for 25 years before shifting and taking a 2-year break and then ending up in education, 6 years in Texas and now 7 years here at Life University and 42 years as a chiropractor. It feels like yesterday, and at the same time, it feels like I've been a chiropractor forever. So it's like a dichotomy of thought and a dichotomy of feeling because I just love being a chiropractor. It's for years it has not been something I did. It's just who I became, and the paradigm of understanding and the paradigm of healing that we espouse to, and that science is really catching up to, is really where we're at. One of my favorite quotes from a 19th century philosopher by the name of Arthur Schopenhauer is, every great truth goes through 3 phases. First, it's ridiculed. We know chiropractors have been ridiculed. Next is violently opposed. Lastly, recognized as self-evident. So as a guy who practiced, chiropractic became self-evident very, very early.
Right.
40 plus years ago, people that came to chiropractors always came as a last resort. They had been everywhere by the time they got to the chiropractor's office. And I saw more people get well from things that even I had no idea whether or not they'd get well from. And when you look at all of that, it all blends back to our understanding and our teaching of our chiropractic principles.
Yeah.
And as you know, the chiropractors listening will know, majority hopefully will know, that there are 33 chiropractic principles that were coined and crafted. But it's a pretty heavy concept.
Well,
And so during my career, I picked a few of those that I taught to my patients, my practice members, my community, so they really would start understanding where chiropractic works and where it can work in their life.
well, and I think that there's the assumption of what chiropractic is, and then there's what it really is. And so I know by nature of our of demographics that half of our listeners are probably chiropractors and chiropractic students who we will somewhat feel like we're preaching to the choir. And yet I feel like you're going to illustrate as we open this conversation how to make a big idea simple and clear. And then you have the other part of the demographic, which is, chiropractic practice members or people that are on their own health and wellness. They're people, but these principles they're chiropractic principles, but they're life principles. And so when I asked you to come in here, and this inspiration for this podcast is, if they knew what we knew, they would do what we do. And as you travel through life, these things just become who you are, and they become the way you see the world, the way you operate in it. And so what I've asked you to do is, let's share a conversation around, what are those things that you wish, if you had a fairy godmother wand, that we could bop humanity and they could wake up knowing, And it sounds like it's these principles, right? So I would love for you to jump in and let's talk through those, because I get shimmers when I think about humanity waking up tomorrow. It's not that they don't know them. They either haven't, they maybe just don't remember or haven't had a conversation around them in a while. So let's wake them up. Let's talk some of those principles.
Perfect. Because when I would get new patients coming into my office, I'd listen to their concerns. And one of my common questions was, so what I hear you say is that you're just tired of being sick and tired, aren't you?
Mm,
They said, yeah, I'm just tired of being sick and tired.
mm,
And then we would have a conversation on the difference between disease and health. And everything they seemed to be doing for themselves was to try to prevent or eliminate a disease. They're always focused on the disease rather than focus on taking care of the host themselves. How do you take care of yourself? And I thought that it was important for them to really understand the principles by which I chose to live my life, which are the principles of chiropractic. So, for the chiropractic audience listening in, if you have not mastered an understanding of the 33 principles, my suggestion to you is that read them every day until you understand them and you master them. Now, are we going to teach that to the lay public? Most of them probably don't want to learn that. So I whittled down my communication, my education with my practice members down to 6 of these 33 principles that I believed was important for them to understand. Because once you understand these 6 principles, you will start making better choices for yourself, for your children, and sometimes you'll make sure you re-educate your children to help them make good choices for your grandchildren. And so for the moms or dads listening in, or for the great grandmoms listening in, understanding these principles and being willing to share them with the people that you love make a difference. For the chiropractors listening in, understanding these and sharing them with all your practice members and starting to share them in your community will make a difference. Because once they understand these, they start making better and very different choices than what they've been making until they understood these principles. So, of the 33, the first one I wanted people to understand was principle number 18. The signs of life. Think about it. The signs of life are evidence of the intelligence of life. In other words, the fact that you, Dr. Devin, are alive, breathing, your heart's, and you're energetic, you're doing things. The fact that you're alive, that's evidence that there's an intelligence.
yes.
Because you, like me, like everybody else listening in, at one point we were in the unknown matrix until all of a sudden a sperm and an egg came together. There was a spark of electrical energy that happened, a spark of light. And then right from that point, cells began to divide and a beautiful human being was created. Come on. There's an intelligence there. That didn't happen on its own.
It's big.
Yeah. So just start that with the foundation. The signs of life, the fact that you are alive, is evidence that there's an intelligence for this life to be created. And then I would say, does that make sense? And most people listening in would say, yeah, of course it makes sense. I'm alive, you're alive, they're alive, etc. And then I'd say, the next principle I want you to learn is principle number 20. Principle number 20 is a living thing has an inborn intelligence that in chiropractic we call innate intelligence. So we know most of us have a belief that there is a power greater than us. There is a universal intelligence. Well, that universal intelligence is then transmitted to us as individuals. And in chiropractic, we call that an innate intelligence. It's really what governs every single function in your body. One of the common questions when people ask me to describe chiropractic, or they ask me about chiropractic, or they say, oh, you're a chiropractor, what does a chiropractor do? I've got, a little question that I usually ask them. I said, well, can I ask you a few questions? And people usually say yes. I said, well, if you think back to high school biology class, high school science class, what do you remember your teacher telling you is the most important system in the human body? And the number one answer I get, and it doesn't matter what country in the world I've asked that question, I've asked it in many countries, the number one question I get is the heart. Somehow, people have been educated to think that the most important part of their body is their heart. And because of how I asked the question, what do you remember? And they say the heart, I'll say, you're right. It's probably what your teacher taught you. Because the first thing we want to get really good at in helping people shift a paradigm to a truth is to create a conversation, welcome people into the conversation. So you always ask a question so that the answer, no matter what, is going to be yes. So they say the heart, I say, you're right. That's probably what your teacher taught you. If they told me something else, I'll say, you're right. It's probably what your teacher taught you. And then I create another question around whatever they answered. So since the typical one was the heart, we're going to assume that if I asked you that question, Dr. Devin, that today you would have said the heart. And I would say, you're right. That's probably what your teacher taught you. And then I'd say something like, I'm going to assume you went to sleep last night. Of course, they look at me and say, yeah, of course I slept last night. I said, and you woke up this morning and your heart was still beating. What told it to do that? The typical answer is, I don't know. And then I'd say, fair enough. I said, you look like you're in really good shape. You must work out. They'd say, yes. I said, did you ever notice when you work out, your heart starts to beat faster, your lungs start to breathe quicker, you start to sweat, all these different changes in your body? What tells your body to do that? And again, the number one answer is, I don't know. Most people don't know. And so my next question is, what's in here? And they go, my brain. I said, you're right. And what does your brain control? The number one answer to that question is everything. So what it leads me to understand is that the majority of the people, no matter whether you're in Georgia or Kansas or Texas or Rome, Italy, or Sydney, Australia, people know that their brain controls everything. What they don't know is how does the brain transmit the information to the rest of their body? How does the brain tell the heart to work? How does the brain tell your stomach, to digest the food, whether you ate a steak, a piece of chicken, or a beautiful salad? How does it tell it to do that? And they go, I don't know. People don't know that. And so when we get people to understand these principles, understanding first the intelligence of life, then I go on to explain to them using principle number 21 is that the mission of innate intelligence transmitted from here is to maintain this material body of this living thing in an active organization. So the purpose of this intelligence is to maintain you actively organized so that when you do eat something, that the right enzymes are released when you're chewing your food, that the food breaks down appropriately, that when it gets into your stomach, it continues to break down and your body absorbs the good that it needs to continue to build cells, and that it releases the rest that you don't need, and that you have a process by which you eliminate that. Very few people stop to think, oh my gosh, I'm going to eat, a double, triple fried, I don't know, chicken steak with, white gravy or whatever. It just tastes good in their mouth.
Right.
After their mouth, they forget what happens, or they don't even think about what happens. And some people don't even understand what happens. But the reality is that your intelligence uses what you put into your body, and it uses the best parts of that to create cells, and it attempts as much as it can to get rid of the garbage part of what you put in there. So yes, having a healthy diet does matter, because the building blocks for your future cells come from the food that you're eating. And so this intelligence, and the mission of this intelligence, is to maintain you in an organized fashion. The next principle that I always like to share with my practice members was principle number 28. The fact that the forces of this innate intelligence operate through or over the nervous system. So if we're going to ask the question, maybe after this time together, as it relates to what you remember your teacher telling you was the most important system, you may still say the heart, but you might also say, but I think my teacher was wrong, because the nervous system is the master system that controls all other systems of the human body.
Oh, I wish that was. I'm homeschooling this year, and I've got some cool pictures that I've been doing with the kids in this conversation, and we'll get to this, but I love where you're taking it right now, because the nervous system, and if you get that, and I'm sure this is where you're segueing. If you get that, when you start to tie those things together, you get it all.
Yes, that's exactly where I'm going because the next principle that I always shared was number 29, where there can be interference with the transmission of this energy from your brain. We refer to brain cell to tissue cell. There can be interference with the transmission of this innate intelligence. And in chiropractic, we call that a subluxation. And when a subluxation occurs, when a subluxations exist, which is a lack of movement of a portion of your spine or a segment of your spine, which leads to disorganization of normal transmission of nervous energy. When this when the interference occurs with this transmission of these innate forces, it causes incoordination. It causes dis-ease,
Mm.
which really just means a lack of ease of this normal body processes rather to occur. And when there's a lack of ease for an extended period of time caused by a subluxation, physical or dis-ease,
This
perfect, yes,
ease, it's so
yes,
important, like, to write that out, because disease is like, it controls so much of our conversation around health. And I love the way you're pausing. And I remember I know exactly where I was at Cleveland Chiropractic College when I first saw dis-ease hyphenated like that. And I went, and it changed everything, because like what you're saying is, it prolonged dis-ease turns into disease, but we often associate either or, not this, linear expression of health. It's like either you're sick or you're well. If
exactly.
you're
Anybody
sick,
that's
is
ever
there? Yes.
anybody that's been ever been really, really sick, like have a serious disease, if you sit and you converse with them, they can go back and tell you months, years, maybe decades
Hmm.
of dis-ease. Yes, I started feeling that in my 20s,
Hmm.
but I thought it was just normal.
Hmm.
And I didn't pay much attention to it. And well, I went to a doctor and he or she said I should take this medication. So I started this medication. All of a sudden, they show up in our offices. They're on 14, 16, 18, 29, 32. I think the most I ever saw was a woman on 38 different medications daily,
Ugh.
taking like 150 something pills a day. And she said, I came here because somebody told me that you were different. So, what does different mean? That you have just a different approach to trying to figure out if I can become healthy again.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, we have a totally different approach. And the goal is always to discover where the person is at. So we can talk about the physical subluxation as I related to in the spine. But what if somebody, didn't experience any physical trauma? What if they drink, a bottle or two of soda every single day? What if they never feed themselves good food? That is an issue, isn't it? And that's a chemical issue, which can lead to what we refer to as a chemical cause of subluxation.
Right.
And of course, there's the emotional side, where people have been traumatized and don't have the ability maybe to have deep relationships and conversations and experience love and experience gratitude. And so when we look at the nervous system, if we get deeper into it, the autonomic nervous system, things that happen automatically, there's two branches of that, right? There's the sympathetic and there's the parasympathetic. And the sympathetic really is what is often referred to as the fight or flight system. You're in a crisis, something happens, you need to respond quickly. You're in traffic or somebody cuts you off, you need to hit the brakes, your body's got to respond. Or in the olden days, you're walking through the jungle and a tiger's about to run after you. Things have got to change, so your physiology changes, you go into sympathetic mode. But where life really occurs
Mm.
is when we're in parasympathetic. That's where love happens. That's where creativity occurs. That's where your artistic talents come alive. That's when digestion is taking place. That's when the process of elimination to get rid of the garbage is taking place. That's all parasympathetic. But in today's day and age, people get so stuck in that stress mode, which is sympathetic, and that alone starts putting you on this course of dis-ease, which leads to disease.
And I love hearing it broke. It feels, instead of like it's happening to me, what that concept of dis-ease and ease created for me was freedom and power over my own choices, because everything I did, everything I put into my body, every environment, every emotional, chemical, physical stressor or choice became, is this taking me to ease or dis-ease? And if you get that concept, like you're breaking down so perfectly with these principles, that becomes a compass for the way you live your life. Ease, disease. And it's not in 2020, it's it might be graduation levels of dis-ease. I don't know that any of us have found the one solo path to ease. Right now it's, a little bit at a time, one step closer, one click closer to ease, because there's a lot going on right now. So
However, the paradigm, and you brought that up perfectly well just now, the paradigm would rest with everyone making a conscious choice to ask themselves this question on a regular basis every single day. Is this action I'm about to take bringing me closer to the life that I want to experience, which is a life of ease, or will it divert me and lead me to dis-ease? So whether it's a decision on the conversation you want to make, or whatever, a decision on something you're going to eat, a decision on whether or not you're going to exercise today, a decision on whether or not you're going to keep your appointment, your weekly appointment at your chiropractor to go get checked for subluxation and get it corrected if need be. If you look at every decision that you make from that space, that's how I live my life now. I've lived my life like that for a good number of years, 20 plus, I would say. But I make decisions based, will this get me closer to living the life that I aspire living? Or will it remove me or move me away? And then you can stop. And if it's leading me to living the life I truly want to live, I go, okay, good choice. Let's keep going that way. If I have a doubt, then I stop and, you know, reintegrate or look at it a second time. Or if it definitely says to me, oh no, this is definitely leading you in the opposite direction from a life of ease, then you have a decision to make. And I call that a pivotal moment. You're in a pivotal moment. You can choose to go down the line you want to go, or you can choose to, in that moment, to choose a better second thought and say, this is what I'm going to choose instead, because this is going to lead me to a life of ease. Now, I, like other guys, I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. So there are times that I consciously make the decision to actually go into the opposite direction from ease. You know, you've been in my sports car once, and unfortunately, we had a flat tire on the freeway that caused you to take an Uber to make your flight. But there are times that I want to hit the gas pedal in that
right,
car,
right.
and I know that I'm taking a chance. And I'm not foolish. I'm mature enough to know that I wouldn't do it in heavy traffic, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm taking a chance of potentially getting a speeding ticket that would not put me in a space of ease, especially at a high speed where I could lose my driver's license and have it dramatically change my life for a while, right? But sometimes you want that level of what I call eustress, EU stress, which is a little bit of a positive stress, as long as you can divert and go back. But that's just a little offshoot once in a while, or choosing to jump out of a plane, right?
Right, right.
Parachuting is like awesome. If you've never done it, it's great. Are you going to feel stressed when you're standing on the strut of the plane, ready to release yourself and let go? And absolutely. Once the chute opens, though, wow, it's like
Oh,
a really, really, right? It's a profound experience. So all of that to bring us back to, are you making conscious decisions to experience ease? Are you making conscious decisions to help your children understand that they can also make decisions for ease, like keeping them away from a tablet? When I see kids on a tablet for like an hour or two or three or four or whatever, I think this is nuts. That in itself is leading them to a sense of dis-ease, a sense of disconnection, which
yes.
is not going to allow them to be physically, mentally, and spiritually healthy.
So if we zoom out and we go airplane view, and we do have that fairy godmother wand, and we everyone awakens tomorrow remembering to remember these principles and this inborn intelligence, this miraculous system within them, and they get that they have active choices and they become more conscious in their choices. how would that impact what we're experiencing right now in 2020? How would the game change?
Well, if once you get accustomed to asking yourself the question, am I leading myself to ease or leading myself to dis-ease? The more you start leading yourself to ease, which is what you're normally going to do. I mean, everybody listening in is smart. Everybody has an intelligence.
Right.
And when you start asking the right questions, you're now able to give yourself the right answers.
Right.
So the more you step into being conscious about whether or not you're making decisions in dis-ease or in ease, in time you start making more and more and more and more, and the majority of your decisions are made towards ease. So if you make decisions toward ease, then you're physiologically going to have a body that functions according to the way that God designed you.
Yep.
Your immune system will work like it was designed to work. Your digestive system will work like it was designed to work. Your cardiovascular system will work like it was designed to work. And you will be physically, mentally, spiritually, and physiologically healthy. So you would be taking better care of the hosts. So in the Christ that we're currently living, I said from the beginning, we have cohabitated with pathogens for over 5 million years. Not we, you and I, but humanity has cohabitated with pathogens for more than 5 million years. We will continue to cohabitate with pathogens for the rest of humanity. The issue has never been the virus. Think about it. They've been manufacturing a flu vaccine for what, 7 or 8 decades now? We still have the flu.
Right.
The flu bug still exists. So we're going to continue to cohabitate with pathogens. What we must pay attention to is the host.
Mm-hmm. And you said, I remember you and I were on a call back in April, March or April, early on in all of this. And you said something to me that I've held throughout all of it, used in my practice, used with my friends and family, is a concept to be a bad host.
Be a bad host, right?
Be a bad host.
If you come and visit me, whether you come to Life University or you come and visit at our home, I can guarantee you, I love being a great host, right? You've stayed at my house. I love being a great host with other people.
Right.
But as it relates to my health, I want to be a bad host.
Mm-hmm.
What does that really mean? I want to be so healthy that the pathogens don't want to live in me because they can't survive in me and they can't survive in you when you're healthy. Mm-hmm. That's how you were designed. You were designed with a powerful immune system. But if you've lived a life of dis-ease for so long, you have challenged your systems and they're tired. Mm-hmm. And they're tired of being sick and tired because of some of the choices that you've made. So this is not about admonishing anybody. It's just to bring you to the realization is that when you start making better choices, and if you're in a serious state of dis-ease currently, it will take a number of weeks, months, and maybe a few years to get you back to ease. But the more you make better choices, the less dis-ease you experience and the little bit more ease you experience. And then all of a sudden, after making a really, really good choice for a number of months, you go, wow. And this is a comment I used to get from patients all the time. I never thought I could feel this good again.
Yeah.
I never thought I could just take a deep breath and take it all in. I never thought I could feel a sense of well-being. I never thought I could feel a sense of love. Mm-hmm. And I remember one elderly patient who came in to me. His wife had been a practice member for a number of months, maybe 6 months or more. And she said to me one day, I've got to send you my husband. I mean, he's a wreck. And the guy came in and his primary complaint was that he had pain in his hip. And you heard him walk in, he was like dragging his leg and he had a lot of pain in his hip. And I sat with this gentleman and I explained what I just shared with you. I explained the principles. He goes, yeah. He said, you need to understand, I'm only here because my wife told me that if I didn't come, she was going to divorce me. She's tired of putting up with my BS, is what he said, right? But I still continued. I took him all in, unconditionally loved him. I still taught him. I told him what we needed to do through an exam process, x-rays, etc. Come back the next day, give a report of findings. And I told him what I suggested. And I said, we found all these difficulties in your body. we call them subluxations. And then like I said, I reiterated what I was talking about earlier on, innate intelligence, the fact that innate intelligence travels through and across the nervous system, the fact that there could be interference with that transmission of nervous energy, that interference we call subluxation. And when that interference is, even for a short period of time, it leads to incoordination that leads to disease, leads to disease. You went, yeah, 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 yeah. Anyway, I started adjusting this gentleman, and I can't remember what his first care plan was. It wasn't that long. It might have been like, I don't know, 18 or 24 visits or something like that until we did our first reevaluation to determine whether or not his care plan should remain the same, decrease or increase. We don't know at the beginning how quickly an individual is going to respond.
Right.
And this gentleman was like in his early 70s. So, he's not a spring chicken. Back in the day, I was in my 20s, so I thought he was really old. Today, I would think he's not very old at all, as you can well imagine.
Perception.
Yeah, exactly, all perception. But anyway, I started adjusting this fellow, and it came time for his first reevaluation. And his wife was booked um, for her check and adjustment if necessary on the same day. So she was the last person that I was seeing in what I call my regular office visit time, and he was the first one in my extended visit time. So I go in and I check her and I adjust her, and she says, "I'm so anxious for you to see my husband. He's your next patient. And I'm anxious for him to share what he's experienced." I said, "Great. Do you want to tell me about it?" She said, "No, I want him to share it directly with you." I said, "Okay." So I went in and examined him and then had a conversation. And he said to me, "Well, first, doc, you told me my hip was seriously degenerated, and you didn't think that any of the care you'd offer would help my hip much." He said, "You're right. My hip feels exactly the same." He said, "Let me tell," and I'm getting shivers thinking about it. This is more than 30 years ago. He said, "But let me tell you something." He said, "I have a new life. I have a new life, and I'd love for you to invite my wife to come in because I don't even know if I can tell you what I'm experiencing, but I know she'll be able to tell you some of the stuff." So, of course, she was in the reception room, got her back in. So she came in with him and she started sharing. She said, "I could never understand him and he could never understand why, but he never wanted to invite the kids to come over to the house for Christmas, for a Sunday dinner, and bring the grandkids. He was totally disconnected from the entire family." And he said to her, "I was, but I didn't know why." And then she said to him, "Well, tell Dr. Marsh what happened last Sunday." So he shared with me that not her, he asked his wife if she would make dinner for the entire family. He invited all the kids and the grandkids to come for dinner. And they had such a good time. And then she said, "Well, tell him about what happened on Wednesday, the week before." And with tears in his eyes, said, "I made love to my wife with my wife for the first time in 5 years." And so all these changes started coming in. And what had we done? What had I done with this man? Other than one thing, I explained to him how the body worked. As a chiropractor, my duty is to locate, analyze, and correct a subluxation when it's there. And so I worked at correcting this gentleman's subluxations so that his body could start to work the way it was designed to work. That his innate intelligence could connect from his brain to the rest of his body. So he would start to function in ease. And when that stress started being reduced, not fully eliminated, obviously, when it started being reduced, this man started living his life the way he always had wanted to live it, but just never understood. So some people say, "Well, it's mind over matter." This man was disconnected. There was a disconnection between, man the spiritual and man the physical. He was just disconnected. And he went on to continue being a regular practice member on a weekly or biweekly basis for as long as I practiced. And so did his wife. And they went on to have like a fabulous old age. So instead of being an old crab and having a lousy life and creating a lousy life for his wife, she brought him, when she got to fully understand chiropractic and was receiving the care and experiencing the benefits, she basically gave him an ultimatum. You go see Dr. Marsh and you get under care, or I'm filing for divorce. I will not live my life this way anymore. Because now she had been reconnected, right? She had a sense of ease in her. And the sense of ease in her then led her to want to live that great life that she saw as potential. She said, when I married him, she said the first 20 years of our marriage was like bliss. I don't know what happened. Well, he's a very hardworking guy, had a lot of physical injuries, which led to a lot of stress, which then led to some more, emotional and mental dis-ease, which led him to that level of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Well,
because of her experience and his, everything changed, not just for them, for everybody around them.
exactly. Yeah. And that's the web. And so I hope that as people listen to it and we talk about the power of asking better questions, becoming more present in the conscious decisions and choices that we're making, and instead of this being a passive life, being this passive game that happens to us that we're a victim of, he stepped into, we've both seen countless, we bear witness to these lives, literally, of people coming alive. When they say, why do you see a chiropractor? To help you come alive. And in part, that's the physical adjustment, but it's also this, what we're talking about, the awakening of the importance of asking questions, of being a bad host, of acknowledging that inborn intelligence. And this is life changing, this is game changing. And if I dig just a little deeper into it, because I know my mama bears are listening with me out right now, I've got a special place in my heart for women, because it's, do I school, do I unschool, do I homeschool, do I mask, do I not mask, what do I feed them, what vitamins, what do I, they so badly want to be a perfect mother. And if you take the concepts that we've just talked about, what would you say to the moms right now that are carrying heavy weight on their shoulders? How do you take what we've talked about and put it in action as a parent?
So first I'll start with two words.
Mm-hmm.
First is trust.
Mm-hmm.
Trust that your body and the body of each of your children was perfectly designed to be healthy. Second word, hope. There's plenty of hope. And hope starts inside of you. And it's not, oh, I hope that this happens. Just experience hope. Be in a state of hope. And I guess maybe the third word I should have added to that, should be three words, is focus on gratitude. So, Dr. Devin, I'm big about talking about gratitude. And actually, I can take it out of my pocket, but I always carry with me a little heart-shaped stone, which I call a gratitude stone. So anytime that I see it, anytime I touch it, just stop for a moment. And I focus on what I have to be grateful for in the moment. And maybe in my entire life. I mean, I can spend a minute. Sometimes I spend like 2 seconds. I just thought, today I'm grateful for XYZ. And if I hit a roadblock somewhere along the day, I'm going to reach back into my pocket, put my hand in there, play with my stone a little bit and say, okay, what am I grateful for, like right now in the moment? And what I discovered over time, and we know this to be true scientifically, is that gratitude lives on the parasympathetic side of your nervous system. Well, as I mentioned earlier, so does joy, so does peace, so does creativity, so does normal bodily functions as it relates to digestion and heart function and blood pressure regulation. That all lives in parasympathetic. So when I stop, and if you choose to do this, when you stop and you bring yourself into that state of gratitude, you're automatically moving yourself into ease, a greater amount of ease. So for the moms, as you call it, for your mama bears, and I had a mama bear once too, obviously, right? And who is no longer with us. But I have a daughter that has children. I have I have two daughters-in-law that have children. So I got 5 grandkids. So I think I love mama bears like you love
That's
mama
right.
bears,
That's right.
obviously. And but when you take the time to stop and be grateful, you will have a greater ability to make wise choices. And so move yourself into that state of gratitude on a daily basis, even in a frenzy. When you're in a frenzy because seems to be falling apart, stop, move back. Like I said, even if it's 30 seconds, a minute, what am I grateful for? And experience that sense of ease. And the more you experience ease, then the more you're going to become a, a driver of asking yourself the question, if I make this choice, will it provide me, will it lead me towards the ease that I want to experience? Or will it lead me in the opposite direction to a sense of greater frenzy, greater dis-ease,
Right.
which we know in time is it's going to make you sick. No
Yeah.
matter how you cut it, the longer you live in a state of stressful dis-ease, you're going to be sick. Now you have a choice to make, and the responsibility rests with you. So I didn't think about it just now, but if you any of you go to Google and you Google the art of responsibility and maybe just put a hyphen and put Gilles Lamarche, the PDF of that book that I wrote years ago, it's actually out online. I gave it away because it's out of print. I gave it away a long time ago, but it's a great little book. You could just, either read it online or print it up and read it and do some of the exercise in there. But what I'm asking all the mama bears and papa bears and everybody else listening in, take full responsibility for where you're at and for where you want to go. And I know there are challenges. There are tons of challenges. There are communication challenges, there are financial challenges, there are there's tons of challenges. But at the end of the day, you always have a choice to make a decision to follow a path of that leads you to greater ease or to follow a path that leads you to greater dis-ease, disharmony, disorganization, which we know leads to disease. And it breaks my heart when I see, young people take their lives. Or 10, 15 days ago, one of my colleagues here challenged me to do 22 push-ups a day to honor, the 22 veterans that commit suicide every single day
Every day.
in America. Every day, 22. So I agreed to the challenge, and this morning again I did 22 push-ups. Actually, I'm up to 32. Excuse me, but challenge yourself a little bit at the same time. So focus on gratitude. Understand that you have hope. There always is hope. Focus on gratitude. Lead yourself to ease by asking yourself the tough questions to give yourself the great answers.
And
Excuse me.
I immediately flashed my 5 kids, and my mom has also passed. Our moms are probably up there having tea, very proud of us right now in this moment. I imagine with Dr. Yinny and Wayne Dyer and Jim Parker as we talk about present time consciousness. But I imagine those mentors that you and I have learned for, and now we're having this conversation and challenging people out there to for themselves lead by example for their children, taking responsibility. And I just flashed to the world that I could gift my children where we focus on trust, hope, and gratitude. And where if they lead with that in their own lives, how that will impact the generations to come. And how, perhaps the gift of Corona, the gift of 2020 is an opportunity to have conversations about this and bring humanity back to the present moment, to awaken the possibility in these deliberate choices. And I'm just grateful because I know a lot of people. I've learned from a lot of really amazing teachers. There's people who talk about it and there's people who live it. And it takes only a few minutes of being around you, of the energy you exude. You live every single word that you just shared. You live the teachings that you preach, so to speak. And I just, in hearing your voice, get so hopeful again for humanity. So thank you for everything that you do. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for holding that very steady ground that hope is always possible and gratitude can heal anything. And yeah, anything else you want to shout out to the listeners, or breadcrumbs of how they can stay connected to you or this light?
Well, I've got a personal Facebook page and I have a professional page. I think my personal page has been at 5,000 for I don't know how many, a great number of years. And on a regular basis, I attempt to post things that will inspire people. And I would not say that I want to motivate people. I want to inspire people, because when you're inspired, you motivate yourself. Motivation is an inside job. To be inspired, as you mentioned, Dr. Wayne Dyer was one of my mentors that I love dearly. He said, being inspired just means being in spirit, being connected. And people are inspired when you have a purpose. And so, Mama Bears, often your purpose is just to raise phenomenal, healthy, loving, kind, giving children so they have a great future. That's a phenomenal purpose, isn't it? And I think maybe I'll leave with a bit of a paraphrase from Wayne that came from one of his mentors that he had studied, Patanjali, who lived, I can't remember, centuries and centuries ago. But apparently, at one point, Patanjali was asked, why is having a purpose for your life so important? And he went on to say, because people who are on purpose are inspired. He said, when you're inspired by some grand purpose, your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends its limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents come alive, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever thought possible. And so I've talked to a lot of moms. I have a daughter who's a mom, and I have sisters who are moms. And sometimes moms, you have a tendency to just beat yourself up. But think about this. What I just quoted, or rather paraphrased, from Wayne Dyer. Your thoughts transcend their bonds, your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness, right, your ability to think expands in every direction. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents come alive. That means you already have them. You already have that. You already have that strength, that force. You already have these strong faculties. You already have the talents. They come alive. And when they come alive, you stop beating yourself up. Because you start noticing that you're a greater person by far than you ever thought imaginable. Why? Because you are. And so be willing to tap in to that great sense of purpose of the job that you've chosen. And if you're a mom and a working mom, you've chosen two big jobs, right? Whatever your profession is, like Devin as a chiropractor and being a mom of 5 children, that's 2 huge jobs. Quit beating yourself up. Get into a state of gratitude and love you the way we love you. And as you do, you're going to get this sense of ease.
Oh.
And you're going, you know what? I've got the same tasks, but it seems like I have more energy to accomplish them, or I'm accomplishing them more efficiently, or I'm having more joy in accomplishing them, or somehow by doing this, by feeling this, by loving myself more, it seems that the people around me love me more, and they're like just showing up to help without me even asking. The kids are picking up the dishes. As a matter of fact, my husband decided to do the laundry. He's never done it in 10 years. I mean, whatever starts showing up, you get the greatest interaction with people when they start to tap in to their own greatness with joy, hope, expectancy, and responsibility. Everything starts to change. I'm not talking about getting into ego and standing on an ivory tower and look at how good I am. I'm talking about looking at yourself in the mirror and loving you the way you're meant to be loved. And that when you do that, no matter where you are in your healing journey, the minute you start to truly love you, you will start to heal. And you'll discover resources, the right people, the right contacts, the right situations, the clubs, the whatever. You're going to discover what you need to truly tap into your own greatness so you can be that exceptional mama bear you've always wanted to be, or that exceptional chiropractor you've always wanted to be, or the exceptional husband or spouse or girlfriend, whatever. When you live in that state, you become who you were called to become. And you deserve that. Individually, we deserve that. Collectively, we deserve that as humanity. So let's step in to a greater level of responsibility with hope, with expectancy, with courage, so that we can live a life of greater ease, which will make us healthy, make our children healthy, make our communities, make humanity healthy again. So we can break bread together and love each other and hug each other and live in that state the way I believe God designed us to live.
I think that pretty well sums it up. And I'm so grateful. And I know that my travels hopefully will bring me to Georgia soon, where I'll get to give you a real life hug. And just so, again, grateful over and over again for everything you're doing for our profession and the light that you carry. And I hope that this conversation and the space that we opened up and the listener on the other side that's playing along with us is better for it. And that's what we do, one step at a time, one story at a time. We sing the song forward. So thank you for sharing time with me today. And everybody, go check out this guy's page. I'll post those links and to that book that he so graciously shared, The Art of Responsibility. And I just love you. Please hug your beautiful wife, and thank you, thank you, thank you for this moment in time.
It was my distinct honor to be with you today and to share with your audience. And it's always an honor just to be in your presence. So God bless you. Thanks for all you do.
Bye to you. Bye to everyone. Dot, dot, dot. We'll be seeing you soon. Hey guys, it's Dr. Devin. What did you think of that? Oh my gosh. Dr. Gilles is just, I mean, now you get it, right? He is one of my favorite humans on the planet. And he just showed us why. Now, in this particular episode, what I loved most is how we stripped it down. We talked about making it all simple again. Because it's big and it's heavy and it's chaotic, and what we really need to do is strip it down and get back to the basics. So thank you, Dr. G, for the reminders, for those life principles. Because we all know somebody, and maybe we are that somebody, that's sick and tired of being sick and tired. And what he did was take simple principles to give us a fresh perspective so that we can ask new questions about our health, about the life that we're living, the life that we're designing. And when we ask better questions, we get better outcomes. He put it so simple, and that's what it's all about. And we all know somebody that's overwhelmed and struggling. Like I said, maybe that is you today, and I hope you got as much value from all of it as I did. For me, when he jumped into the concept of being a bad host, I want to share this conversation with everybody, because that changes the entire game in a year like 2020, with a conversation around COVID and Corona, and when we're bombarded with fear of a virus, fear of a big bad bug, fear of one another, fear of tomorrow, fear of dying. Being a bad host puts the power back in my hands, back in your hands. I'm going to share some links about the terrain theory and the hygiene hypothesis to take you deeper into what it is he and I were talking about. Because instead of the germ theory, where we're constantly on the defense and running around trying to protect ourselves from what's out there, we focus all of our attention, all of our energy on building strength within, so that no matter what virus or bacteria it is, when we drink fresh, clean water, when we get adequate sleep, when we surround ourselves with vibrant, high-thinking people, when we get adjusted, when we take care of this body that we've been given, it does a good job. And so that is life without fear for me, because instead of being afraid of things that I can't control out there, I doubled down on taking care of myself, teaching my kids to do the same. And then I'm free. So I hope that was as valuable to you as it was for me. It's such a good reminder and such a great conversation that I can't wait to share. And then lastly, when I asked him about moms and parents and what message he has for all of them, and he summed it down into 3 words: trust and hope and gratitude. I hope that planted new seeds of trust and hope and gratitude in you, and that you can take those seeds and share them with others. It's why I love this podcast. If they knew, well, now I know, now you know, now we've got to take it and share it, right? Sharing is caring. And it's just all about waking up the things that we already know and remembering how powerful we are. It's why I expect miracles, and I hope that you do too. So thank you for being with us in this conversation today. I hope you had as much fun as I did, and I can't wait until next time. I love you. I appreciate you. Mwah!